like all Palestinian medics, Razan al-Najjar was wearing a high visibility vest. Like all Palestinian medics, she was doing what she was trained to do, walking slowly towards the fence with her arms held aloft, shouting in unison, "Stop shooting! Stop shooting! There are wounded here!" And as she reached and knelt to treat her wounded colleague, she was shot dead. An Israeli soldier's hand was on the gun that killed Razan al-Najjar. But it was countries like the UK that put that gun into that soldier's hand. In the year before Razan al-Najjar was killed, UK arms sales to Israel reached record levels, over £220 million of arms licenses granted, and those sales have continued unabated despite the killing of Razan al-Najjar, despite the killing of over 300 Palestinians in the Great Return March, despite the injuring and maiming of over 35,000 Palestinians, and despite the UN Commission of Inquiry that found Israel guilty of war crimes, that found Israel guilty of targeting medics, of targeting children, of targeting journalists, of targeting the disabled. Disabled Palestinians like Ibrahim al-Thuraya, a paraplegic double amputee, shot in his wheelchair as he attended a protest. The Palestinians continue to protest. On Saturday, Badreddin Abu Musa, 25-year-old Palestinian, died from the wounds he sustained in Friday's protest when he was shot in the head by an IDF sniper. That day was the 74th consecutive week of protest, and alongside the killing of Badreddin Abu Musa, 42 other Palestinians were injured with live fire. An IDF soldier's hand was on the gun that was used to kill Ibrahim al-Thuraya. An IDF soldier's hand was on the gun that was used to kill Badreddin Abu Musa. But it was countries like the UK that put the guns into those soldiers' hands. It is time to stop arming Israel. It's time to stop selling weapons to Israel. It's time to stop buying weapons from Israel. Next week in this building, Israel has its own pavilion that it is using to sell weapons to the world, marketed as tested on Palestinians. Tested on Palestinians like Ibrahim al-Thuraya. Tested on Palestinians like Razan al-Najjar. Israel is responsible for the war crimes its soldiers commit. But our country is complicit when it buys and sells weapons to Israel. Now, Palestinians will continue to protest because when you are denied the rights you are owed as a human being, protest is not simply a right, it is an obligation. But we too have obligations. When our government arms Israel, when it continues to trade with Israel, when it continues to give Israel diplomatic and political support, then we are complicit as citizens unless we take action, unless we protest, unless we demand change. We are not obliged, like our brothers and sisters in Gaza, to walk unarmed into the line of fire. But we are obliged to keep protesting today, tomorrow, this week, next week, until we end our complicity and until the Palestinian people enjoy what is their birthright: freedom, justice and equality in their historic homeland. Stop arming Israel!
Stop arming Israel!
Stop arming Israel!
Stop arming Israel!
Thank you.